If you are looking to get the most value out of your time as a home sewist, or you started sewing your own clothes because you want to create the clothes that you want to create that are in your head, right? Then this video is for you, because here's a little secret. You are meant to change and customize the sewing pattern. There are no pattern police coming to get you if you make changes to it. You are meant to change it, and it is absolutely how you get the most out of all your time and effort. How you can easily take one pattern and get 4 and many more designs out of it. And that is what I'm going to show you, or nay, inspire you in this video. Welcome back, sewing friends. I'm delighted to see you here. And I know your smiling faces are always there for me, thank you. It's wonderful to see you again. If you're brand new here, welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood, and we talk everything garment sewing on this channel, particularly not just any old garments, but we want to sew really, really great garments. The ones that are trapped in here, right? That's probably why you started sewing, is because you have an idea of what you want to make, right? That vision, that inspiration, you know what you want to make. But the trouble is, how do you then make that, right? Because you've got a pattern, and what do you do from there? Honestly can tell you that the best value of your time and energy spent as a home dressmaker, I went through this process myself, so this is how I know, is to spend that time, effort, and energy onto one pattern that you love, making it fit right, getting all the tweaks done. Then you can change it up a little bit, change a little neckline, do some little design changes, and customize it so you get multiple different designs from that one pattern. Don't worry, I've got lots of examples coming up to inspire you by, and breaking it down into some categories that is coming up. Because let's face it, we kind of like the same fit, the same style things over and over again, right? You look for the same sort of, if it's a 1950s kind of fit flare dress, you kind of wear the same thing over and over. And the pair of jeans or the pair of pants, it's kind of the same fit over and over, right? So why do you need a new pattern for each of them? You can customize it. And don't worry, you don't have to be advanced. This is definitely beginner techniques, and it's giving you the vision of where to go, because I know that's why I started sewing, and it was the hardest thing to have to kind of connect the dots in learning to sew is one thing, learning to pattern make is another thing, but learning how to then sew and pattern make, customize patterns to be the ones that you want it to be, then where is that tutorial, right? Because I want to see you sewing those amazing things that you dream of. And it does take time, but you can learn it. Okay, let me start by breaking it down into 3 categories that I think that we can change and customize from. And I think this gives you a bit of groundwork on where to start your next project. If you're going to customize it, what could those things possibly be? Number 1 is the design and the design elements on the pattern. So you can change this up. Now, there's a big, I don't know if it's a secret, but you can learn really just foundational pattern making skills that will serve you to be able to change up any pattern that you have, be it a knit top, be it a robe, be it a skirt, a dress, a pair of pants, and make some small little changes, and it is completely different. For example, what might this look like? You could change the neckline from a scoop neck to a V-neck, pretty much like my example here. It's the same knit top, just a small little change. You could add different seam lines and to color block certain areas. So creating a design line anywhere and then using that to your advantage to maybe color block or just add interest is really easy to do. You can of course change the sleeve lengths, the hem lengths. You can add belts, take them off, add pockets, take them off, do different types of things, change the lengths of widths of collars, of different bands that might be around necklines. You can change those to different widths. All of these are small little design features. So think when you get a pattern and you often see the same design, but there's a few different variations. That is really easy to actually achieve yourself with just some core foundational pattern making skills to get you there. And it doesn't take much. It is sort of the next step, but that's the point, is like, what is the next step that you could do? You can very easily make all those small design changes with minimal skills, I promise. Say you're not into pattern making. This sewing is something that you can customize and make to uniquely you, because who wants to do it exactly as it says out of the pattern envelope, right? I mean, I know I like to choose different sewing techniques. So what does this mean as example? So think if your pattern might tell you to do an invisible zip, but you like a lapped zip, then you can do a lapped zip on there. If, for instance, your pattern might tell you to just turn up your hem and overlock it and then stitch it, and all your overlocking is exposed, and you're thinking, no, I can do better than that, I'm sure. I don't want those there. So you could do a double turn of your hem, turn over the top and turn it over so it's all covered and neat and nice. You can choose to do that. You can upgrade these sewing techniques so many. Think seam finishes on the inside. You can do something different. You can choose a bound seam, a felled seam. You can do overlocking, you can do zigzag. You can do all sorts of different seam finishes on the inside. Hand sewing invisibly versus machine stitching for your hems and finishes. You could do different facings even, for example. If you have a facing where it flaps around all the time, you could change it up and do a bias facing instead of the all-in-one facing, or even just turn the ends of the facing over and just cover things. There is so many different sewing techniques, and the more you sew and expose yourself to different things, you'll see. The more garments that you look inside and see what the techniques are, you will learn these things, and you can choose. You are supposed to choose different, they're just giving you a guide to tell you on what to do, like how to make that up. It is just a guide on how to make up that garment. You can choose what you like it to be on the inside and make it to be as beautiful as you want it to be with all those beautiful sewing techniques. The other part that I think you can really take onto your own to customize is the materials that you use. So really think about the actual fabric that you use, because it can make such a difference, right? If you use a drapey fabric versus a, quilting cotton, right? There is a huge difference into how that garment will look versus something slinky and satin, right? It falls and drapes so different. So you can create a whole totally different looking garment from a different fabric. And think all the trims and everything that you might choose with it. This affects so much the design of what it looks like as well as the end style. Are there little trims that you're going to put on? Decorative trims. You're going to use piping, something contrast in there, and play around with the colors that you've got. Create entirely different looking garments from the same pattern. Is just really thinking about it in that way. So I feel like chunking it down into sort of design, pattern making things, like changing up the pattern, so to say the style, sewing techniques, choosing different finishes, different seam finishes, hem finishes, different zipper types, all that sort of thing. You can choose to customize it the way that you want, and really looking at your materials and trims and decorative features to make it uniquely you. And sewing patterns were meant to be changed. So a sewing pattern was never designed as a learn to sew tool. Back in the late 1800s, they sort of come out to home dressmakers to be able to sew up the latest fashions from, say, Paris or, London, wherever. And they could bring those beautiful, runway styles, wasn't a runway back then, but you know what I mean, to their home and be able to recreate that without having to learn the whole pattern drafting from scratch, right? But that's because the home dressmaker had so much assumed knowledge. They already knew how to sew, they just needed a pattern. Fast forward to our days and we need help sewing this thing together, right? That's why they come with heaps and heaps of instructions, but it's still really hard, but they were always designed to be tailored. It's just a starting block. You tailor it to fit you for one thing, absolutely without a doubt, but then you can tailor it and customize it to be what you want. You're the designer here of your own creations. I know you're thinking, but I'm not a home dressmaker, so I'm just a beginner sewist. Does this still apply to me? Yes, it does. It is talking about all that assumed knowledge, and well, that is why I created my vintage sewing school, is to house and teach everybody all that assumed knowledge that comes with, that you really kind of need behind you to be able to start really taking ownership of your own designs and being able to choose all these things and learn. And it's got all the basics there, of course, like, learn how to sew, learn how to sew the things you want to sew. That's why I created Vintage Sewing School. And I'm actually teaching something right now that I think you would really love if you're really vibing this kind of customizing, unique way of designing and sewing your own things. I think you'll really, really enjoy something I'm doing right now at this time that I'm filming this is for the teaching it for the first time inside for members of my Vintage Sewing School is a designer robe course where I'm taking my members through really bridging that gap between the designs and that inspiration that you've got and the actual finished garment. How do you put those together? So far more in depth of what we're obviously talking on today, but that's what I'm doing and I really want to do it. We're doing it over the next 8 weeks. As I said, it's the first time I'm teaching this. So if you are into that and really want to learn more, absolutely come and join me at Vintage Sewing School because that is where we are doing it and all the fun is, my friends. So I'm going to leave some links down below on how you can come and join and really be part of that. If you really want to, as I said, just take your sewing further, not just sew up pattern after pattern after pattern, but learn how to really create your own things, both designing, both sewing, and both materials. I've got you all covered inside my Vintage Sewing School. Okay, I promised examples, so let me show you some examples. So let's say, for instance, and all of these come from the courses that I'm doing right now in Vintage Sewing School. The robe here is from this. That's why I've got 4 different designs already and a 5th one on the way. So take this robe pattern here. All of the designs that I have here are from the one pattern, right? The one pattern. I've just customized it using those 3 different things that are 3 different categories that I was talking to you about before. If we want to say change it up into a beautiful house coat type thing, what did I do here? I'm just going to reference my sewing journal here because so I don't forget anything. So I took this pattern and I customized the sleeve length. I changed the hem length. I then also, of course, adjusted the neckband and the sleeve bands to fit the new lengths that I just created. I added and changed the pocket on this because, you know, why not? I want the bands to be matching on the pocket, on the sleeve, and on the neckline. Have them all of the same. I added the belt and the belt loops on this one. I did a simple overlocking for the insides of this one and a simple turn and stitch hem, so the insides there is no overlocking on the hem that is visible. Nice, neat, crisp, beautiful. And on the band, of course, you'll notice no visible overlocking at all. I chose that technique to use for the tutorial that I made on how to sew it all up because, well, we just want those nice, neat finishes on the inside from the get-go, right? Okay, but how do we take that robe and then turn it into this glamorous glamour robe that we've got, right? So it's easier than you think. Just a few pattern making foundations and you can create something way different. Obviously the fabric gives this a hugely different look in this heavier, stiffer brocade and just gives it like a more structured look, and the sleeves and just divine, and the velvet trim really, really pops with it. What I did is I created a drape sleeve, so it's sort of extended down and gives that drapey, luxurious type, real glamorous look. I created a more full flared skirt, so I cut and spread more fullness into the pattern to create more flare and flow because, you know, why not? I made it longer, I changed the sleeve length, and what I did on this one was I actually added a hem facing because I wanted the brocade to have a bit more weight to it and a bit more structure. I did a hand sewn end on it, and just to make it look, just give it that bounce to that hem that, you know, is just, looks so good, right? And I made the pocket a little bit scooped pocket instead of a straight one. You would never think that those are the same, right? They are completely different dressing gowns. Okay, what about one more? Let's turn this robe into a beautiful smoking jacket, a la like satin and shiny and like, just like sleek and sort of that men's smoking jacket feel with the piping inside. Gorgeous, right? These are all the materials and colors that I was going for. So I also on this one changed the length and wanted that mid-calf length. I added the piping into this one. So I really wanted that contrast piping as well to add a bit of color to the satin. And I think this one worked really nice. And so I just added that sewing technique into the construction that I had. I changed up the sleeve bands, the neck bands to match all of those length alterations that I did. And I think this one turned out amazing. The satin fabric in this is glorious. And again, completely different looks and feels. And even like looks, when you put it on, it feels completely different than those other robes that you saw before. I know you like these examples, so let's go one more even. Let me just find it though. I thought from this same pattern that I could make some sort of real cozy fluffy kind of bathrobe, like warm, cozy. I just, you know, that one that you put on and it's just cozy and like, oh, just gives you those vibes, right? And so the fabric I chose was this vintage chenille. So it's all this textured cotton that gives like a la like 1990s Fran Drescher from the nanny type vibes. That's what I was going for. And this chenille worked perfectly. What I did is I knew I wanted a big roll collar, so I changed up that band to be twice as big so it would roll over itself and create the collar, right? So I was able to do that. I changed the design. I did it for the cuffs as well, and I matched it. I used the wave of the selvage on this to use that on the band and really make it a design feature, which I think absolutely makes this gown in the end. So choosing that different sewing technique and really thinking about that absolutely made this garment. And I did the same thing, changed the lengths and the bands and all of that sort of thing to match. But you can see, right, how changing up just those few things in those three categories makes completely different looking garments. And that, I hope, seeing those four inspires you to see just how much you could take, say, your next sewing pattern that you have, or I'm sorry, one that you already have, and customize it, change it up, make a new look out of something that you've already put all the time and effort into probably fitting and making amazing. Or simply that you just know and love, because we want to sew clothes that we love, right? Now the question is, my sewing friends, is what are you going to customize on your next project? Leave me comments below. I want to hear it. And make sure you stay tuned to my next video, which I'll actually link in the description box down below, the See More section, because I'm going to show you the 3 easiest things that you can do on your next project to really customize it and make it just uniquely you. I know you're going to love it. All right, my sewing friends, happy sewing. Bye.